day 3 of being a spy. Now on Monday, we learned how to encrypt messages, so even if somebody got our message before it got to our final person, they couldn't read it, which is really good. And then yesterday we made dead drops so that we could get the message to the final person, which is really important. But what are we going to put in our messages? We need to gather some intel, and that is what we are going to do today. Today we are going to make a periscope, which will let us see around corners or above tall things, and it will allow us to gather some information, which we can then write down and encrypt, which we can then put in our dead drop. So it'll be a lot of fun today. This is how we're going to gather some intel, and we'll learn about other ways that we gather intel through sight as we go today. I'm going to really quickly go over what you need if you want to do the project with us today, and then we'll go to our shout outs. If you want to shout out, make sure you type your name in the chat, either in Zoom or on YouTube or Facebook. Evan's got all of those things coming. And if you are in Zoom, that is awesome. If you are on YouTube and your parents don't want you on YouTube, you can always go into our Zoom classroom. And the info for our Zoom classroom is on patreon.com/rosieresearch. You can support all of the projects we're doing. We are creating this nice, stable thing for you guys to do every day. And you don't have to do it every day if you don't want to, but we have a project for you guys available. And support starts at just $1 a week, so a coffee a month, which is pretty great. All right, so today, what we need is 2 mirrors. These are like little compact mirrors. But if you don't have 2 mirrors, we can make a smaller periscope with just a CD. If you have a CD, what you're going to also need is some of the things that we'll also need today is a ruler, a pen, and then you're going to need your parent, because your parent is going to have to cut the CD for you, all right? And when we get there, I'll show you guys how to do it. You guys can always pause the video and do the cutting process there. So if you don't have 2 mirrors, you're going to want to do your CD. Even if you have mirrors, you still need the ruler and a marker. You're going to need some tape, scissors, and some sort of thin cardboard. I wanted to make a really tall periscope, so I've got this little sparkling water thing, but you could use like a cereal box, or if you have paper cardstock, that would work too. And then to glue my mirrors in, if you don't have hot glue, you could tape them in, but glue will make it a little easier. So I have a little hot glue warming up here. And that is pretty much all we need to make our fun little periscopes that we can spy on our neighbors with, or our friends, or our siblings. We have a lot of fun gathering some intel. Although we should let other people know that they're in on the intel gathering, because they might get upset. In fact, that will be the first thing we're going to do. So if you have a CD, you definitely need your parent, because they will be helping you. And what you're going to do is you're going to make a grid around the circle of the CD, because this circle part is not very mirror-esque. And if we have the circle part in there, then we'll have like this big hole in what we see. So we're going to want to make sort of like a hash mark or a hashtag around that circle so that you can see it. And my ruler just so happens to pretty much cover up that hole beautifully. So I can just try to align it as best I can. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'll hold it up for you guys in 1 second. So I've got one set of lines right like that. And then I can do it also this way if I wanted to. And I'll just see if I can line it up really good. And I have another set of lines like this.
Hold still.
And then what we're going to do is you'll use like an X-Acto knife or a razor, something that's really, really sharp to cut these. All right, scissors, I don't really like cutting CDs with scissors. They can shatter. Sometimes the scissors will work for you, but sometimes it shatters. And then when it shatters, it can have really sharp pieces. So that can be a little bit tricky. Of course, having a razor can be a little bit tricky, which is why you need a parent. You should not do this yourself because razors are insanely sharp. But you could do something called scoring, and that is when you just sort of drag it along. And I'm just going to use my ruler, and I can press and drag it. And then you want to tell your parents that they would do this, because your parents would be pressing and dragging it. And this sort of creates like a line that you can sometimes break it really nicely on. And you can press a little harder as you go. And you'll have to do this on all the pieces. So I sort of have this nice line, and I I might keep going on it, on dragging the razor through. So you're going to want to cut those guys out. So you'll just use like one of these 4 squares. You only need 2 squares of mirror to do it. You'll notice they're a little bit smaller than mine. That's okay, because you'll make a cool pocket kind of Periscope, and that's totally fine. But that's how you're going to get it out if you're using a parent.
I think there's a number of people who are going to be using CDs, so you might want to go through it.
Okay, we'll cut through it all the way. So I'm going to keep going, and I will just cut. I'm pressing a little bit harder each time. I got to find my spot. Just like this. And you might want to be on a cutting mat, but our table is like our place of all. All right, so we're going to keep cutting. And I'm just doing a whole bunch of spots that it just cuts through a little bit more each time. And now I'm getting sort of right where I want to be. And I can snap it like that. And then once it's snapped, it didn't snap perfectly on that line. But then I can probably take these scissors and just cut off that little bit of extra that I don't want on it. Just like that. All right, and then I'm going to do that for the bottom side too. Now this stuff is probably not going to cut you. It's not super sharp, but you might want to be a little bit thoughtful and careful with it to do it. And then you're going to go on the other side of your square so you can make your CD into a strip. And I'm not pushing down with all of my might each time. I'm just pressing down kind of hard, and that groove is going to get a little bit deeper each time. As I do that,
so we have a question.
Deep enough, we can just fold it and shatter it. Yeah.
What if we accidentally cut them into fourths, not squares?
Into fourths.
Like if they were cut the CD down the middle?
Yeah, that would probably work. And then, see now once it's scored, you can just kind of break it. Yeah, so if you cut it into quarters, you would have sort of a quarter pie shape, which could be fine. We could put that in. You're just going to have like sort of a quarter pie shape to your final image instead of like a square. But then you also have like more of the quarter pie than you did here, so sort of up to you. And then we'll do the same thing here, just like this. And we'll have 2 squares after this one. And I like the squares just because it's a little bit easier to put in. Doop, doop, doop. Let's see if that's enough too. And when I crack it, I'm just sort of testing. I'm not putting all my might in it. I'm just seeing if I can kind of get it to go. I don't want to fold it too hard when it's not ready to. So I might need to score it some more. Just like this. And of course you can also try if you want to with scissors. It sort of depends. Here is one of my pieces now. Depends how your scissors work, how good they work. A lot of times I usually forbid kids from cutting CDs in my classes and camps just because they do have that tendency every now and then to shatter and go all over the place and maybe into your eyeballs, which would be terrible. So that's why I really like scoring it, but that does require an adult with us. All right, I'm probably pretty close to being there. There we go. So now I've got 2 squares, and the rest of my CD I don't need. You can make something really pretty with the rest of your CD. All right, so that is how you're gonna do it with parents. And if we're getting too far ahead and your parents are still scoring, that's totally fine. You can hit pause and wait until you guys get your 2 beautiful little mirrors out of your CDs, and then we can continue on our way. And you'll notice that my squares are pretty much the same size, which is kind of important. I don't want one big square and one little square. I want them to be just about the same size. Okay? All right, so now we need to build our periscope. And the way that a periscope works is that you have 2 mirrors, and the light comes in from over here maybe. It hits a mirror that's at an angle, and it goes down, and then it hits another mirror that's at an angle, and it goes out towards your eyeball, so that you could be here and you could see something up here. And then, of course, the size of how far you can see is going to be dependent on the size of your periscope. So what I'm going to do, I've got this sort of like handhold holder here. I'm going to tape over that so it can be a little bit stronger, because I'm going to need all the sides of this as we go. I'm just going to tape over that part like that. And then I'm going to cut this open so I can use the box. I can sort of fold it open. And I'm going to cut along the seam of the box. If you have a box that's similar to this, where it's like 4 equal sides, that can make it a little bit easier. And we always want to cut on these seams so that we can use sort of the corners of the other 2 in our project, which will make it a little bit easier for us to make. So I'm going to open this box up by just that one nice slit. And I kind of want this to be the outside, because I kind of feel like if I'm spying with something that's like bright green with lines on it, somebody might notice it like peeking out. But if I do it the cardboard side on the way out, I could make it camouflage. So because I want that when I make my lines, I'm actually going to flip it so that my finished side is down and that my side that will be inside my periscope is going to go up. All right. And now I'm also going to cut up this middle line, because this square is too big for this mirror or for my little CD mirror. It's way too big. I'm going to need to cut it down. So I'm going to cut right down the center again, which is on another sort of hash mark or fold mark of this. So cut right down the center. And my plan is to make 2 smaller pieces with this bend in it that will fit together. And the way I'll know how big it is I'm going to take it, place my mirror here, and I can draw a line down here, and then I can place my mirror at the bottom. I can line it up really nicely with that crease, draw another line. I could even do that in the middle, and I can connect those lines to show me where to cut so that my periscope is the same width as this mirror. And then I'm also going to do it on this side. I'm just thinking I might need a book. That way I can show you guys what I mean. So I'm going to line this mirror up really nicely with that crease mark. And I'm going to just draw my line straight along the edge of the mirror. And I can go down a little bit more. And I'm going to do the same thing. Line it up really nicely with that crease. And I will measure this. Ooh, thanks, Georgia. Georgia got me a book. That was helpful. I appreciate that. She's on it. All right, so I have these 3 lines that are the same width as the mirror. And what I will do, where I put my ruler, I'm going to connect these lines. And these lines are going to give me a plan of where to cut. So I'm going to connect these lines all the way down to the bottom. So I'm going to go from top to bottom, just like that. I am not going to use these flappies, so I can actually cut these flaps off. Just like that. And now I'm going to cut from top to bottom right along this line. Okay. We'll just cut all the way down that line. And if you're going to cut a little bit extra, you want to cut a little bit on the outside of the line. You definitely don't want to cut on the inside of the line, because then your periscope will be a little bit too tight. All right, I'm going to cut this bottom flap off as well, because I don't want that. There we go. We're going to get rid of this right there. All right, so now I have one side that's the size of the mirror, and I want to do that the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to line it up again with that crease that goes all the way down. And the nice thing about that is that crease is already straight, so I don't have to worry about things not being straight. If I just line it up with that crease, it's going to be, oh, I'm going to flip it over. I say this is trickier because I'm right-handed. There we go. So I'm going to line it up with this crease right here, and then I'm going to use the straight edge of my mirror to make a line. Now, if you have the CD piece, you'll do the same thing. You'll line it up with the crease, and your line is just a lot closer. You'll have a much skinnier periscope. It'll travel really nicely, so you just make the line like that if you're making a littler one. And then I'm going to, again, line it up with that crease and draw another line. And we'll line this one up here at the bottom with the crease, and we'll draw another line, the last line, just like that. And now I can connect these 3 lines using my ruler to tell me where to cut. All right, I'm just gonna line these guys up. I can draw a nice long line all the way down. And this helps make sure everything is nice and straight. And I will now cut all the way down this line. All right. And I'm going to cut the top and the bottom flap off as well. And again, when I'm cutting, I don't want to cut on the inside of the line towards this crease. If anything, I want to cut on the outside of the line to give myself a little bit extra space if I need it. All right. And now Orion mentioned Enigma. So Enigma, if you guys don't know, was this giant machine used by the Germans in World War II to talk to each other so that the Allies did not know what the Germans were planning to do. And of course, you don't want this machine to be breakable, because then we would know where the Germans are at all times and we could plan accordingly. And that would be, I mean, if you're trying to win a war, that's terrible. If you're trying to defeat them and they're your enemy, you really want to break it, because that's good because you have the intel. And Enigma had all these different wheels, kind of like our cipher wheel had all these different wheels, but they were actually gears instead of wheels, and each gear tooth, so gears have sort of teeth where they go like this, and the teeth of the gears had sort of the letters on it, and you would take 2 letters on different gears and you would line them up to get a 3rd letter, so there's a 3rd gear down here. There's a lot of gears in Enigma, and they all line up to spit out the letters that you want, which is kind of cool. Okay. I have one piece that's ready. It's gonna look like this. Notice how that it sort of, my mirror can sit in here very nicely. It doesn't like hang out over the edge. This little box we're making is gonna fit my mirror nicely, but I only have a half a box. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing all over again. And we are gonna, yes.
Could you use that one as a template for the other one?
I could use this one as a template. If you wanted to, you could totally line up one of them. You could line the crease up with the crease, and you could make your marks and you could cut them out. I'm gonna keep going like this way, because I feel like this way might be a little bit slower, so that our friends who are watching at home have a little bit extra time to get through this part too. All right, so again, the way that we're doing it is we are lining up the mirror with the crease, and then making that mark going down. All right, I'm gonna do 3 of those and line them up. So Enigma was like pretty much impossible for cryptographers to break. They could not figure out the pattern, they couldn't figure out how it was working, but they actually socially engineered the answer. They figured out that every German correspondence would say a couple of things. One of them was Hail Hitler, and the other word was weather. And because they would always talk about the weather, like, oh, the weather is sunny out today. And then they would usually end with Hail Hitler, but Hail Hitler would be in that message. And so we were able to design our own machine that could then, we could input that we knew Hail Hitler was in there, and it would be able to backtrack it. And then we could break all of their codes, which was actually really hard, because then you can't tell them you broke the codes, because then they'll know you broke the codes, and then they'll switch to something different. And that actually was a very tragic story for some of the people who were working on breaking Enigma, because they found out that the Germans, the next day or two, I think, were going to hit a ship, a Navy ship. I'm just going to put this on here. There was another little cut in there. It was going to hit a Navy ship.
Micah just showed up. Hi, Micah.
Oh, hi, Micah.
And Kaya, Candy Kaya.
Candy Kaya. I love it. All right, I'm going to do this on the other side so that you guys have a little extra time, too, if you're doing it. But again, as Evan mentioned, you could line up your 2 creases, and you could use this as your ruler, and that would really, like, fling you past where we're at. But I'm going to keep doing it this way, so for people who are at home and doing this on their own, Sometimes this can be a little bit tricky. I'll give you a little extra time. And then we can also talk about cool ways that spies see things. So this is going to let us see around corners, which is pretty neat. I love seeing around corners. It's not a normal eyesight thing. Our eyeballs cannot just randomly see around corners, and that's because rays of light are straight. So a light off a light bulb goes straight this way, straight that way. Like no light goes like this, unless you have mirrors or lenses or those types of things, unless you have optics. But it doesn't naturally do that. So this is going to let us use mirrors to bend the rays of light that should be straight, and it lets us be super sneaky. But some people are like, that's not enough. I want to see even cooler things, and we can do that. Some people can look through walls, so you don't even need to be like sort of on the corner looking around. You could just straight up look through the wall with something called thermal imaging. And that looks at light that we can't actually see, but that some cameras can detect. And then they also have night vision, which lets you see in the dark based on infrared light that we spit out and then is reflected back to us, which is kind of cool by the people. All right, so I have 2 of these beautiful pieces. You can see that it's starting to come together and starting to look like a periscope. I can make a box, and I can fit both of my mirrors into that box, which is perfect. And now what I'm going to do that we're at the right sizes, I'm going to line these 2 up, and I'm going to put a long piece of tape from top to bottom to connect them together. And you know what? Since I'm going on the inside, I'm going to actually put this on what will be the inside. I'm going to put the tape on the green side. And I'm just take a nice long piece of tape, and they're not overlapped. So I'm going to show you guys real fast. They're not overlapped. I'm just going to put the tape so it crosses over the 2. I don't want to overlap them because that'll make it shorter. All right, so I'm going to line them up really nicely right next to each other. And then I'm going to put a nice long piece of tape straight on down. Like that. There we go. So now I have these guys that are now taped together, and they can bend as necessary. I can cut off this extra tape on the top and bottom of my soon-to-be periscope.
So can you tape these together how you might do it if they were using the CD squares?
Yeah, so if we had the CD squares, let me put this aside for a second. If we had the CD squares, or if, let's say, you had 4 strips instead of these corners that were beautiful, we were able to use the corners, but maybe you were not able to use the corners. And if you weren't, that's fine. You just need 4 strips that are the size of your CDs. Let's see if these guys happen to be. That would be kind of amazing. Look at that. So I would need 4 strips that are this size. Or if I'm using the CDs and I happen to pre-plan I had the corners, that's totally fine. But what I would do is I would put them together just like this. And I'm going to put a piece of tape that goes all the way down. All right, so I'm going to put this on the table and I can lift it up to show you after. Although, again, if you don't want the tape to show, you could flip them over like this on the green side and tape on the side that you want to be on the inside. And you're just going to tape it down like that, and that will let us bend the way that we need to bend. And then I could also cut these guys strips down to the right size so that they're all the same size, and I could make a square the same way that would fit the CD. All right, so if you're making the CD, you're doing the exact same thing we're doing. It just happens that your 2 pieces were just skinnier, so that the square you make is just smaller. All right, so you'll still have all these cuts, you'll still have these creases in the middle, and then have to tape them together. All right, and then we're gonna fold it up like this. Now, if you notice, I'm kind of missing something. Well, I'm missing a few things. I'm missing mirrors, so I can't see, and I also can't put the mirror in here and let it see anything at the moment. That's a little tricky, isn't it? I'm gonna need to make some windows on opposite sides, one on the top here, and then one on the bottom. So top and bottom, so that they're on flipped sides. And I also need to install my mirrors. And that might be the hardest part of what we're gonna do today. So I'm going to show you guys how to install your mirrors. Our mirrors need to be installed at just the right angle, because if they're a little bit like this, the light will come in and it might bounce back like this, but my eyeball's way down here. So what I need is the more that I angle this, the more that it bends the light. But if I go too much, it might actually bend the light that way. So the angle we want is called 45 degrees, but there's going to be an easy way to do this because I have a square mirror, or you have a pretty much square CD piece, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to put your square mirror down, and we are going to trace around our square mirror. I'm just going to make a trace around that square mirror, just like this. All right, and I can also do it on this side if I wanted to. You could just keep going on with this square, no big deal. Like this. And we want to figure out what is 45 degrees. These are squares. Squares have 90-degree angles. If I cut an angle in half, that gives me 45 degrees. And if I cut the angle in half, I'm really going from one point of the square to the other point of the square. So I could take my ruler and I could go from one corner to the other, like I'm making a slash through that square. All right, and that is actually how I'm going to orient my mirror. I'm going to slash it through the square like this. All right, so when I glue it on, I'll glue it along that slash, and I'll make a hole cut for a window at the end. And then, so the light right now would be coming in like this. Oof, this is tricky because it's too long. It would come in like this, and it's going to go down the tube. If I want my eyeball to be on this side, down here, I need to put the mirror the other way on that slash. So I'm going to, again, down here at the bottom, I'm going to make a square like this. It's a little tricky because my stuff is a little bent up.
You can do it on the table.
There we go. All right, so I have one mirror up here that's going to go like this and shine down. And the other mirror I want to be the other direction, but the slash goes the same way. It just depends which way I orient my mirror. So again, I'm going to make a slash from corner to corner in my square, which gives me that nice 45-degree angle. So I've got two squares with a slash going the same direction for each square. All right. And now we are ready to glue our mirrors in. These boxes are going to be a little bit big for one side of our mirror, but if I look at the way that it is right now, I can actually see that this guy is going to line up here. So if I glued my mirror here, it will also glue on this piece of it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue my mirrors in, and we're going to have to hold it up and down for a little bit. So I'm just going to put some glue on the mirror, one edge, and I'm going to line it up on the slash towards the middle. You can eyeball it, it doesn't have to be perfect. So it's in the middle of my square, right along that slash. And then we have to sit here and hold it while it dries. If you don't have glue, we could use tape. Let's see how well my mirror stays up. You could use some tape, and the way that you would use tape would be to fold your tape, like roll it so it's sticky on both sides, and then you could tape it down on part on the cardboard and the other part onto the mirror like that. And you'll lose a little bit of what you see because now the tape, that part is not reflecting, but it could give it some added stability. I would also put it on the back side, on both sides for tape. So here's the back side of my mirror. And then I would also, again, I kind of like fold it so it's sticky on both sides. And then I can stick it to the green and stick it to my mirror, just like that. So now I've got a mirror that's happily standing straight up and down. And now I need to put my other mirror in. And I don't want to put it in so that the mirrors are facing each other. I want one mirror to face this way and one mirror to face the other way, because then the light can come in from the side. Oops, sorry.
We're making Evan work today. The light will come in from the side, hit this mirror, and go out. If I put it this way, it'll come in from the side, hit this, which is a diffuse layer, and we won't see anything. Nothing will happen. So we need to make sure that the mirrors are going the same angle, the same direction, like they're both sort of going on this slant. But the mirror part are actually facing each other. All right, so here's this mirror is facing that mirror. All right, so the mirror should both be facing towards the inside of your periscope. And then again, to glue it down, we're going to add some hot glue to one side of the mirror. And you can eyeball it or put it sort of in the middle of the box right along that black line. So we drew this black line that was crisscrossing the box for our 45 degrees. And then you're going to put it right along that black line. And this is sort of what I mean by eyeballing the middle. I have just about as much over here on this corner as I do on that corner. All right. And again, if you want, you could either add reinforcing tape. And the way, again, you do the tape, this is my non-sticky side. Here's my sticky side. I can fold it so the non-sticky sides touch each other. And I could put that down. And then I could tape onto the mirror just like that if I wanted to. And I could do the same thing on the other side, as long as you're okay with losing a little bit of the mirrored surface. All right, so now I have 2 mirrors in, and I can do something like this. All right, I can fold this box up if I want to, but wait a second, Dr. Erica, we don't have a window. We need a window. So what we're gonna do to make our window is you're going to take your ruler, you're going to put it by your mirror, because we want our window to be as big as possible. And you're going to draw a line for this mirror the way the mirror is pointing. So this mirror is pointing this way. When I fold this box up, the light would come in here, so I need the window right here. And then I can also do that here. Do 2 lines, and I can then connect my lines to make a sort of box. I don't want to go all the way to the edges because I do want that support structure still. All right, so I have this sort of box right here, and I don't want that. That is going to be my window, and I can do the same thing on this side. So if I were to fold this up, the window would be right next to it. This guy doesn't have a window in it. It's going to be the one right next to it. And it's not on this side because look, the mirror is pointing that way. So this is going to be the eyeball window. And so what I would do again, just look at where the mirror is, and I can draw a line here. And I can draw a line on the bottom of my mirror, like that. And then I can make sure that I have some stuff for structure. So I'll just make a slightly smaller box there. And again, this part I'm going to now cut out. I don't want that part. That will be my window. All right, and then to make your window, you could, if you need to, you could cut in from the side and we could tape that up. That's totally fine. You could try to punch a hole by taking your scissors and putting them really hard onto the table, which might be trickier. Sort of up to you what you want to do. This is hard cardboard for me though, and not very pointy scissors. I think since my scissors are very, not pointy, I'm gonna cut in from the side. So I'm just gonna cut in from the side, and then I'm going to cut this window square out. And I'm only making 1 cut in from the side. All right, and now my little window square is out, and I'm going to just tape this part down right here. I'm going to take a little piece of tape, I'll cut it to the right size, and tape that down so it's secure again. All right, now I'm going to cut the other window out.
Do you have any suggestions if a CD is hard to see through? Or just
if the mirror is not as good?
Yeah. You could try wiping it really clean.
You could try wiping it. I mean, a lot of the times it's pretty decent. Georgia has started building with RCD, but I'm going to take a piece and look at it. Yeah, I mean, it's trickier because it's got the rainbow on it. I don't think we can get the rainbow out. But you can still, like, I can still see things. Like, I can still see the forest and whatnot. It's just got this, like, sheen and this rainbow. It's, like, cloudier. Almost like you're looking at through, like, a fogged up mirror. But, like, foil would, I think, would probably be worse. Foil's not going to do it for you. And maybe the compact mirror. Yeah, I mean, if you have a compact mirror you want to break apart. But I think most people would probably prefer the CD, is my guess. I think once you install the CD pieces, it might be okay. But the CD is a lot smaller. So if you find a compact mirror that you're not using, you can totally do something like this. All right, I'm going to cut my other window out now. And because I learned that these scissors are not pointy before, I'm just going to cut in from the bottom and cut this square out that I didn't want. And I'm almost ready for my periscope. Now, you'll notice a couple things to point out. Oh, real quick, I gotta retape that piece that I cut through before I go any further. So I'm gonna just tape this panel that I had to cut through down. All right, so a couple things to notice. The mirrors are facing the inside, they're facing each other. And if I look at the mirror, I could say, okay, the mirror's kind of facing this way, but it's also facing that way. So it's also facing the window we cut out. All right, so the mirrors are facing two things. The windows, this guy's facing that way, so it's facing that window. And then they're also facing each other. All right, and then when I close this up, I will be able to see from one side to the other. Now, I probably don't want to have it looking like this. I probably want it to be nice and secure. And the way I can do that is I can add glue to both of these pieces and then flip this piece up and press it down to be glued down. I'm going to have a little bit of gap on the sort of front, like between the window and the mirror. So you guys can probably see this if we look down the tube. I have a little bit of a gap here. And that's because we wanted to keep this easy and just make a square tube where everything was the same size. But once I take that mirror and I like sort of shift the angle, I've changed the size, the height of it, which is totally fine. So the way I'm going to secure the mirrors, and again, I'm going to put glue on both of these. And I am going to press really gently this piece right there. All right. I'm going to start rolling it all up together. So I'll put glue on both sides of it. Just like that. And if you're doing tape, you might have to reach in with your hand, which will be really a little bit tricky, but not impossible. And there we go. So that part's nice and good. And then I'm going to take this part and I need to tape this part together. And so I'll take my nice long piece of tape and I can put it half on this side. So half of it is sticking off. And then when I fold this part up, I will roll it over.
And they could do that with the mirror too, if they're using tape. Put half on,
yes.
Fold it back like a T.
Yep. All right, and there we go for that part. And now I've got this lovely little periscope that we can use. I can see some Legos that are right in front of us. I can see you guys right now. Maybe you guys can see my eyeball if I can see you, which is kind of cool. I don't know if the focus will work. But this gives me a way to, I could put it this way, I could see around a corner. I could see something really high. If I go like this, I can see something way up there, like I'm seeing the top of the doorway right now. If you want to, we could cut squares for the top and the bottom. So if we wanted to, we could trace around. Oh, hang on please, Georgia. We could trace around if we wanted to. And we could add a top and a bottom piece. That'll give it a little bit more structural stability. It's not necessary. If you're like, whew, that was really tough, I feel like I'm done, you can totally pause where you're at. Look at my square's not perfect, but that's okay. I'm just gonna cut it out the best I can. It might have been smart actually to make these squares the size, like trace the mirrors. That would have been an easy way. I had not thought of that until just now. But I'm going to cut this top and bottom piece out. And I can then glue it or tape it right up here so that it'll look just like that, which is kind of cool. And that's sort of just a personal preference if you would like to do that. That is up to you. And to tape it, you're going to need 4 littler pieces of tape. You'll do the same thing that we did to close the box. You'll put it half on the piece that we're on the Periscope. And then you'll bring this guy up and you'll put the other half folding it down onto that little roof. Oops. We'll just put it this way first. So the other half is going to fold that little roof down. And then I can do that all the way around. I can put 4 pieces all the way around. Or I could just put 2 pieces. I could put one on that side and I could put one on this side. Or maybe that's how I decide to get it started. What's nice is I can reach my thumb in here to press down if I need to. Like that. And now I have a roof. And I can also put a bottom if I wanted to. And that does not change what I can see. I don't know. Can you guys see me? I can see you guys. Oh, that's pretty cool. I'll let Georgia look through it. That is a really fun way to extend your sight and peek around some corners. All right, you can look down if you wanted to look lower. You could look through the top part. You want to look higher, you look through the bottom part. You want to look this way, you look here. You could look the other way, like that. So many ways to look at this. So much information that you can collect, which is going to be amazing because then you'll have something to encrypt and put inside your dead drop. All right, I've got Evan reaching over to give you guys a better view. And our mirrors are pretty dirty, so we could totally use some alcohol to clean those mirrors off. But the nice thing is there is that window, so I can reach in and touch my mirrors at any point in time that I need to. Hi! Pretty cool, huh? All right, so I'm going to double check with Evan about questions. You guys might have paused the video to catch up, and that's totally fine. You can always ask questions over in Zoom today, too, because we'll be there until 1 o'clock eating lunch together and sharing everything, checking out Tiny. And if you need help getting this together, we can totally work on that, too. But let's see if there's any questions at this moment.
Abel says that his dad mentioned that the Enigma machine was only the size of a typewriter.
Yes.
But that the machine that we needed to break
Enigma
the computer was
like the size of a room.
The size of a warehouse.
Oh yeah, it was huge. It was not easy.
That's how we basically invented the computer, was to break the Enigma machine.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's 2 letters in Enigma that go into 1 letter. So you have 3 gears that all shift together. And like, let's say you wanted to say like what, so you'd have the WH. So you would move 2 of the gears till W and H lined up, and then you would look at the tooth on the 3rd gear. That would be it. And then the gears had random alphabets, and you had to know which gear, just like we had to know which wheel to put where. So you had to know the alphabet on each gear and what gears were used, and then how they were going together to get that. I think it was 2 letters to 1. I don't totally remember that. But yeah, can you imagine? Like, that's a lot to break. And we did it! Yay, which was cool. I don't know. Sometimes science amazes me. I mean, the fact that somebody thought to use gears to encrypt something, and then the fact that somebody was able to backtrack that is a little crazy to me. That's super cool. And if you're really interested in Enigma or cryptology, you could always check out you could do a search on videos, because you would learn a lot about World War II. This would be a great project with your family. It could be a great way to do school. Why am I putting it in quotes? I mean, you're still learning so much, but you could do you could research it, then you could make your own machine, which we already did. Then you could use it to encrypt things. You could write a story. You could encrypt things. You could look at images. You could draw pictures. I mean, seriously? Talk about the best ever, project-based learning right there. That would be super cool. All right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna say goodbye on YouTube, and we will head over into our Zoom class. I wanna say thank you so much for joining us as we make these awesome little periscopes. And if you have not joined us to support us yet, you definitely should. You'll get all the emails, all the supplies, access to Zoom, all of the knowledge that you need, printouts and everything that comes with it. And it's $1 a week, and you can do that over at patreon.com/RosieResearch. And you can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Evan's doing his best to get the word out there, but share it with your friends because the more the merrier. Anyone can join. You can always just watch us on YouTube. You just won't quite know what's going to happen ahead of time. All right. Have a great afternoon, my friends. We'll see you tomorrow. What are we doing tomorrow? What are we doing tomorrow? Tomorrow? We'll see you tomorrow when we make a parabolic acoustic recorder that you guys can use to hear tiny, tiny sounds. It'll be amazing. All right. We will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Pretty cool, huh, Georgia? You could decorate this if you wanted to.